Good evening. Welcome to the Oz and Mini podcast, episode 3. And today we will be talking about shipping in relation, also known as relationships. And we are obviously with the lovely co-host.
It's me, Minnie. I'm always here.
And today our sponsor is Glorious Water Transport Videos. For videos of bus ride experiences, including very powerful and very odd routings and engines. Watch his YouTube videos. Search for the term "glorious water" on YouTube. And now we are going to introduce our guests today. We have Avery.
Hi.
From the Great Lands of America, joining us today.
And we have ShadowStorm.
Hi.
From the Great Lands of Britain.
From
like the rest
From
of
the
us.
great lands of Hampshire.
Yeah.
Much closer to home. And today, our obviously, as we stated, our topic is shipping relation, where we will be talking about our relationships, how we have how our experiences and stuff like that, as well as any advice whatsoever. We're going to start with basically an overview of what situation we are in at the moment. So we'll start with ShadowStorm. What is the current situation?
I'm currently engaged.
And currently having poor connection.
And that.
So you're stating you are currently engaged,
Yes.
and Marcus, what's the overview of yours?
Um, like almost engaged, so yeah. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, I'm currently in a relationship, and I've been in one for about 4 months now. It's going well. It's a medium distance relationship, and just to point this out, Minnie's currently just a tiny bit unavailable. She is currently in a relationship which has lasted for a few months, due to situational difficulties. At some times it can be short distance, and at other times it can be very long distance with multiple time zones involved. And so we've got today. We've got a vast amount of relationship experience with varying degrees of separation, from touching distance to miles and miles and miles of ground. And I'm gonna start with by asking you guys, as a more detailed thing, how did you meet with your sod? We're gonna start with Minnie. How did you meet your sod?
How did I meet my significant other? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, I met him at school. Because I'm one of those lucky people who met their person, IRL. And so I met him in September, and then we were really good friends from that moment. We got along really well. And then in about January, we started to really have like a romantic thing with each other. And then he asked me on February the 10th. So yeah, I've been dating him ever since. Things are going well. I don't know what else you want me to say.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good start. I mean,
Yeah, without going into too much detail, I don't know what you want.
they don't need that much detail right now, because we're just diving into how varied how varied meeting sods are.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Next go with Shadowstorm. How did you meet your sod?
I met Fenris Wolf through a group of friends that we both used to hang around with. I just came to an appointment for my mental health. Anyone that asked me okay when I was sat with my hands in my knees and listening to music through my headphones. He was the only one that asked me if I was okay. Then we got chatting over Facebook. We met up Friday, and then it just went on from there, really. He was dating someone at the time he met me. That ended very, very quickly. And we've been together nearly 3 years now.
Oh, how
Oh,
lovely.
that is cute.
That's a cute love story.
Thank
how
you.
It, and how it grows, and how it grows to an engagement, and eventually,
Yes.
when our invites to the wedding come.
Yeah.
We've
see that.
got a date. We've got a date. We don't have a year yet.
Nice.
Fair enough. Next we go to Avery. How did you meet your sod?
Well, I met him on a group chat that was introduced to me by one of my cousins, and like I just introduced myself in the chat, and he was the only one that stood out, and I thought he was just like the most creative person in there, and I was just like, hey, you're pretty cool, so I'm just gonna PM hit you, and so that's what I did, and then we started talking, and then we started like calling, and ever since the first day we've been calling every day, ever since we met, and like at the time he had a relationship which sucked, but you know,
Everything falls into place.
everything fell into place anyway, and we've been together for 2.5 years now, so it's great.
And I've known you for how long?
uh,
2 and a bit.
a year and a half,
Year and a
almost
half.
2.
Almost 2 years. There we go. And yeah, it now leads to me. How did I meet my sod? This is interesting. Um.
Go for it.
Oh, lovely. I don't know where to start because it was me being added into group chats by a former staff member on a popular app, and just talking with sods, and um, infamously, whilst I was messaging in that group, the person who later became my partner was asking for hugs, and I rejected him because I didn't hug. I didn't hug select. I was very selective about my hugs.
You had a hug list. To be fair, he did have a hug list.
Yes, and that was because
I
at the
was
time.
on it.
That's because at the time I was very adverse to hugs. And it just intimacy was still quite new. Not still physical intimacy was still quite new in terms of friendship wise. But later on in the year, we eventually got to know each other through him liking me as a crush, and I made him wait for 5 months. We met in person in February, that was for the first time, and he seemed pretty darn good. And second time we met, I asked him out, and here we are today, just 4 months in. And it's a medium distance relationship. So it means that I don't live in the same city as him. I don't live in the same. Yeah, I live about 140 miles away. Thereabouts. Train would be about an hour 40 minutes. So, but the distance isn't too bad, and it's the way we handle it is pretty good, and it's going strong.
Good.
No.
I don't think the rest of us really mentioned distance as much.
Yeah,
So
no.
yeah, Avery, talk to us about the distance you have between you and your partner, and how you cope with it.
It's a long distance, and it's 1,600 miles away. So
Yeah, not quite far away. And how do you deal with it?
um, Well, I don't know. I just
call
call
every
him
day.
every day. I beg him to call me every day.
I know you beg.
Hush.
Okay, and Shadow, um, obviously know your your distance with Venice, but would you like to explain to our viewers?
I currently live with him.
So very small
And
distance.
very small distance, but at the minute he's
Supposed to arrest us.
quite far away at the minute.
And
Oh, nice.
Minnie has the most interesting distance story, so here we go.
Yeah. So during school time, I can see him every single day, and because I have quite a strange case for most people listening, they probably won't know anything about it, but I can see him during school times, and I do meet up with him every day then. And during the holidays, he goes back to Hong Kong. I know a lot of you don't know that I'm dating someone from Hong Kong, but I am. So during those times, it's quite hard for us because we have a 6-hour time difference. Currently, we'll be 7. So I don't really get to talk to him that much. I mean, I literally haven't spoken to him in the last 3 days. So I think it's going strong. I promise my relationship's healthy.
You promise. It is actually quite healthy.
It is. It's really healthy. Yeah.
It's very healthy.
What are you implying? I don't
Many
like where this is
things.
going. Okay.
Many things. Many unspecified things.
Thank you.
And
So,
you go.
okay, well, I was going to say, so we're all in quite stable relationships now. But I can tell you that wasn't the case in the past. Definitely me. And I'm pretty sure the rest of you have some stories to tell. Should we go around?
Go around
just
the
giving a
table.
brief overview of our love lives. No names needed. Just maybe like at what age you had a thing, how long it lasted, how serious it was, just like very brief. I'm not expecting any of you to have like essays to give me right here, but
Unlike you, Minnie,
not like me.
because you have
So,
several.
Avery, take it away.
Oh yikes. Okay. I have multiple ones. But the first one, it was in middle school. It was about 13-ish,
Yeah.
7th grade. And it wasn't really that serious, but like I was the naive one, thinking that it was kind of serious. Not really. We were on and off, and I could have done better, obviously, but like I was just too young. So, but what I was cheated on by her, and because she had affairs at the age of 13,
Oh,
which is
wow.
crazy. Which is crazy. And like she kept lying to me about how she was moving away, and then she also was saying like that she was pregnant and all that crap at the age of 13. It was crazy.
Okay. Yeah, this is going.
And then so I eventually was just like, I'm fed up with it. But the second one, it wasn't as bad. Like I didn't really have feelings for her at the beginning. Like she just confessed, and I was just like, maybe
Sure.
start having feelings. Like sure, like see
Yeah.
how this works. It was whenever I was like 15, and I was just like right before my freshman year of high school, and I started developing feelings, and then it just slowly decayed after like 2 months, and so like I was just like I need to stop this so I don't hurt her even more later on. And then the third one is actually with a guy. Ooh. And
He figured
ooh,
out his
I
sexuality.
changed.
Wasn't meant to come out that way.
But it was freshman year of high school, and it was a long distance, so that's another change. And he wasn't bad. Like it was kind of serious, but he wasn't a bad guy. Like he was great to me. It's just that he didn't talk to me very much, and like kind of ignored me. Like I would message him, and I would just get a red. I was left on red, and
Ooh,
and
sad.
that happened for about like 2-3 months straight, and like I would get like little bits of messages here and there, but it was bad. So it's just I'm breaking up with you. I need you,
Fair
but you're
enough.
not here. So
Yeah. Has to go both ways. Communication is key.
And we'll touch on that
yeah,
later,
definitely.
definitely.
Yeah, I can tell.
We're gonna go
So
to.
is that all?
Yeah, that's about
Okay.
it. Like,
Okay.
and then I had couple relationships that weren't serious at all, that didn't really matter. So
Okay, fair enough.
And next we will go to ShadowStorm. How has the past been in terms of relationships prior to your lovely Fenris?
Oh god, horrible compared to what I am in now.
Oh.
Aww.
How cute.
I mean, Fenris is darn good.
He is.
I love him to bits.
He's a lovely guy.
I know, and he's a lovely guest.
Mhm.
I had to say that because he's been guest on previous 2 episodes.
Yes, he has.
And now you are.
Tonight.
And you are not the Fenris replacement service, by the way. You are the full-on other half.
Yay!
Yeah, we were never going to call you the replacement service. No.
Unlike Minnie.
I'm not a bus. I don't replace train services.
Minnie,
What?
time for your spotted history.
Right. Well, I've actually experienced a lot of different things, which is quite weird because I'm quite young. But
You're not
my
that young.
first boyfriend was I was 11-ish. Oh, it's one of those relationships where all you do is hold hands, and then he cheated on me for a better girl. So yeah, great first relationship. We only dated for about 2. Felt like a long time when I was 11. So that happened, and then I had a thing with another boy which did not go well, and he just used me for his own pleasure and doing not so great stuff. So, and I was 15. It was like 2 days before my birthday or something. So I was basically legal. I still have my virginity, by the way, in case that needed to be clarified.
Somehow.
Yes. And then I dated another lovely person, quasi relationship for 6 months. That was my first long distance relationship. I barely call it long distance. Same country, but just farther away. He was a very sweet guy, very lovely guy, but just not for me. You know, gotta kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince. I'll stop laughing. And then I have friends with benefits thing, which just really enjoyed that. Didn't last very long, but it's fine. And now I've found my boyfriend. So yeah. Oz, what about you? Tell me all about all of your past relationships.
There aren't that many.
But I know there are some.
Oh, yay.
Go on then.
um, yeah, we'll start with just coming into uni in first year. Yes, that's right. I had my first relationship at the age of, well, nearly 19. Um,
Well, definitely older than me at 11.
oh yeah, oh yeah, because you were what 2 when you. I'm joking.
You still call me too.
That's fair enough. Yeah, with us, it's with me, it was a 8 months of me not being prepared for a relationship. To be fair, um, that ended. It wasn't. It was also, um, like before then I was straight. I thought I was straight, and then now I'm bi. Still leaning straight, and I think the best result like lately prior was the one before. Um, it was a quasi relationship. Was well, I would just more say like a two-way crush. That lasted for about 5 months. Um, but what that sort of like made me realize it was more of a uh you need me and I need you in a situation where um yeah yeah that and it sort of opened my eyes to something where I knew that someone it made me feel like someone could love me for who I am.
And you're still good friends with them today.
Oh yeah, and now my current relationship, he after quite a few months of pursuit, and that worked out well.
Yeah, it's going strong.
Yeah, my relationship stories are quite late and quite small. Uh,
But it just goes to show that, you do have to
yeah,
sometimes perfect person. There's no point in just rushing straight into things.
yeah, and don't rush into things because you it inevitably falls apart because you need to know the person more in order to find out how your relationship is and what and how you work with them and how you work with their friends
Yeah.
because if you don't work with them or if they're causing you overt stress, then it's clear that the situation is not right. What's life like in between relationships? Because we all talk about relationships and so forth, but no one. But once relationships ends, there's always this like limbo time
Yeah,
where
that's a good question.
either you're searching for someone or you trying to find yourself or whatever that is. I mean, we'll start with Minnie. Um,
Okay.
what how is life like in the quote unquote limbo time between relationships, and what did you do during that time?
Well, it's been a very long time since I felt truly single, I guess. But between the 6 month relationship and the one I have now, I'm going to again bring up the friends with benefits because it lets me fill my time as such. Uh, I guess not really fill my time, but it just helped me get over the past one and really um, appreciating myself and just taking time for myself and being as selfish as I wanted. Because I mean, you're gotta have some time to yourselves. I tend to focus on my friends. Definitely, they help you get you through things. They're always gonna be there. You don't have to have any romantic connection. they're just good people who like no matter what. And I definitely say I established most and good friends during the moments where I was in search. I wouldn't say I ever really actively looked for a boyfriend. They just kind of stumbled. It just kind of happened. But yeah, that's my kind of what I did between them. Well,
That
let's
is
move on to ShadowStorm. It's fine.
ShadowStorm. What did you do in between relationships?
Yeah.
I didn't really have many friends. I was quite by myself, really. It was more spend time with my family. And before I met the group of mates where I met my current fiance, I was quite alone, bored, didn't really want to be around, like, life-wise and things like that.
Okay. And Oz, what did you do? What did you do around your
What did I do around my relationships? Well, it depends on like towards my the early ages of when I was
Mhm.
dabbling in relationships. Um, my mindset wasn't great. I wasn't in the best state of mind, and I did go into near desperation mode. I'll be honest, and it wasn't great. And rushing into things, and then realizing when I met the quasi relationship prior to my current one, it was then when I realized that it wasn't. It is to find someone who you really care about and really like, and you know, do it properly, and take your time because and just like try and find your footing with people. Try and find who you really are. Try and find, and then between then and now, and my current relationship, it was a case of finding who I was, finding what I am, and finding what kind of person I like, and also seeing what, even with the current options that were open, just like trying to make sure that you get to know the person, trying to find out how they are, how you interact with them in person as well, and how to deal with them. But when I was, it was also like whenever you're single, you try to focus on yourself because once you focus on yourself, you improve and you get to know what kind of person you want and what kind of thing you want and what level of um readiness you are is all dependent on how confident you are with yourself. Because if you're not comfortable and confident with yourself, then how are you going to portray yourself to others? How are you going to become the best version of yourself for someone?
Yeah, I
Because
definitely agree with that.
yeah, because if
That you really have to be yourself and be really comfortable with yourself. And I mean, you don't have to be 100% like la la la. This is me. I'm crazy.
like
Although
you,
I do that, but you don't have to be like me. Basically, you just so long as you know that who you're being and who you're portraying is yourself and authentically yourself, it other people will pick up on that and go, oh damn, oh sorry, oh wow, I like this character.
yeah,
He's a or she is a cool
or
person.
it.
They, that's a better term, are a cool person, and I would love to get to know them a bit more. And it's kind of like that. You can read. I mean, that's how I feel like I did it because I really wasn't very anything before I started working on myself, and it takes a lot of time. You cannot just do it from one day to the next.
You have to
It
take your time,
takes months,
and sometimes
in
even years.
fact, years.
And even now, all of us are probably still learning new things about ourselves, what we are,
Yeah,
and you evolve over time. And people who get into relationships earlier in their lives, most of the time they don't stick because people change, and people
yeah,
change and evolve because of how they age and how experiences and aging can affect your mindset and can affect your behavior.
That's also why a lot of people get divorces nowadays. One, because it's easy, whereas before it wasn't, but also because uh, people change, people evolve, and people grow apart from each other. You know,
Yeah.
so the person who you fell in love with may not be the same person you're dating today, and you may uh, see that like in your parents or something, or grandparents. If you think about your grandparents, if they are still alive, still together, or your parents will just think how they were when they were 20 and how they are now. At whatever age they are now, they're not the same people, but they've either grown together or grown apart. It's really just a life, really. We all have different experiences. I don't really know what else to add.
And eventually, if you grow with them, it yeah. I always say with fate, well, whatever happens, happens, and sometimes things can fall into place. Like people can end up in relationships that aren't so great, and then they find someone whilst in that relationship, and the other person also finds someone whilst in that relationship, but obviously they're still tied to each other. Then, for example, person A's relationship with another sod, and person B's relationship with another sod ends up being the status quo after a breakup between person A and B. So these things can happen, and don't be don't be too disheartened if like always try to work out your differences. And the main, like, I'm gonna ask you guys for what is the top piece of advice that you can give to someone in a relationship. But my top piece of advice I can give to anyone, anyone who is in a relationship, is very simple: communicate. Always talk.
I
Always
was
keep
gonna give
on.
communicate.
Always.
I was gonna say that too.
I mean, everyone's gonna say that, but
Because we all want to say that obviously means it's a valid piece of advice.
yes. But I always say
We
communicate.
didn't discuss this earlier.
Communication is key to relationship, and relationships stick because people talk about the differences and how they can solve them, how they can fix them, or how they can alleviate them. Because all in all, relationships need communication, because without communication, there's going to be a level of misunderstanding, and levels of misunderstanding are key to breaking relationships. Yes, I know that I'm now basically stating how to break a relationship, but how not to break a relationship is to communicate. Because if you communicate, it means that you can, the other side knows where their footing is and where your footing is, and you can compromise. There is the relationships are also about compromise, because you will have to compromise something that you want to do in order to help, in order to like please both of you. And don't think though that you can't do everything that you can do, because there's always like, in certain relationships you can just do whatever you want, but at the same time, you know you'll be experiencing it with them. And sometimes if you try things that you normally do but with your sod, you don't normally think that that would be great if you talk about it, and maybe you two might enjoy it together.
I
And
also think,
go on,
like,
ShadowStorm.
like in believing yourself, because due to my experience, my fiance has helped me find out who I am, and he's made me feel like I'm believing myself a bit more, and I feel comfortable around them. Because if you don't feel comfortable with them, then you become like don't really communicate much, things like that.
Avery.
Then they are not.
They, they're not
But don't
worth
be
it.
I know
too
it's hard.
greedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, also don't be very greedy, okay?
But
It's a
always know your
fine line.
worth. Know your worth and
Yeah.
make sure they know your worth and they know that you are worth that you have to know that you are worth to them as much as they are worth to you. And also Minnie's connection is worth less than what our podcast warrants.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because it kept on
Probably said
cutting
that
out
in a
on the
really
vital
robotic voice.
it kept on cutting out on the most vital points.
Two-way communication, that's all I have to say.
Yes, two-way communication. Make sure that and also level communication. For example, if you want to do something and your boy or girl wants to do something, um, and you got to be open to trying something that you wouldn't normally do, but with your other sod, and just to know how they're like, what they like, and stuff like that. Also with level playing fields, you both have to know that if um, if you two let's say this, it could be as simple as splitting the bill,
Yeah, no, that
or if you two are going out and doing
that's
something
fair.
and you still have separate bank accounts, fund half and half, or you don't have to be. Don't make it where it's all dominant on one side, where everything person A wants happens and person B doesn't get anything that they want done, and it can lead to stress and can lead to, you know, situations that aren't great. Um,
Can I just talk about splitting the bill there? I, with my boyfriend, we're quite fair. So he he doesn't want to become broke, but he also, to him, he feels like he needs to pay a little bit more than I do. So he might pay an extra like £2 for the. We'll split it, and then he'll pay £2 extra, and I won't pay that £2 because if we want it to be, because I won't let him pay the full thing first of all, and but he's more manly. It works in a heterosexual couple. I don't know what it is for. Um,
a homosexual
Also
couple.
an Avery.
I
Avery
mean,
doesn't go out to dinner, but yeah.
yeah, for me, when we go out
Yeah,
to dinner,
unfortunately.
it is either we split. It either goes to a split 50-50 or a split to
Mhm.
what we've ordered for ourselves. It depends on our
Oh
money
yeah.
situation and stuff like that. But also it can lead, it can lead to bigger costs. Like, what costs do we cover when we do a big day out? For example, yesterday me and my boy met up in where up his end, and it was a short notice. It was short notice, so I had to book a train ticket that wasn't as cheap as it normally would be. So, as compensation for me going up there in such shorter notice, it was to meet mainly with his friends, his IRL friends. When I say IRL, it's like his non-fandom friends, in up at his ends, and because I paid my way up there, and it was nearly £30. Um, to alleviate it, he would he paid for my share of what would be us splitting the bill for food, um, and stuff like that. And I expect myself to do the return when he comes down south. I will help cover if he's paying the one that's paying for his travel. That means I will be the one that's paying for him in other means, I hope.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
that
and
makes sense. That's good.
it's a level playing field for cost as well in that sense. Although there will be times where he really wants to pay more for me, and it's like, because I travel so much, I am a money drain. I'm a money drain.
That's my way of putting it.
And talking
That's
about
one
money
way
drains,
of
I'm
putting
also
it.
money drain as a third wheel. Now, this podcast, I didn't want to just talk about experiences in the relationship. I want to talk about relationships where you're not in them, but you have to experience them, whether it be as a friend or as a, you know, seeing things from the outside, or even better, seeing things from the inside as a third wheel. When I say inside, but like really close to it, rather than physically inside as the polyamorous relationship. We're not covering types of relationships. We are going to cover types of distance and stuff like that today. Um, with third wheeling, it's quite interesting to see how relationships develop, how relationships are, what levels that you guys can do, them the two are, and how you can help them improve their relationship. And as a third wheel, your task is essentially to, let's say, bring someone else's, normally your friend's relationships up from level 1 to, let's say, level 6. Improve the quality of relationship. For example, you can do something as small as just supporting them, or um, supporting them mentally, supporting them emotionally, or as large as literally helping them go out to eat, or suggesting places where they can go, or aiding them in the cost of, or in the manner of how they can get to see each other. It's third wheeling can be in, it's one of those things where you don't necessarily benefit personally, but because you're benefiting one of your friends and their relationship, it's rewarding emotionally. Um,
Can also cause jealousy, though.
it depends on how it. I mean, it can cause that.
If you start to develop feelings for one of the halves because you get so close to them, and then they're dating someone else, you're just stuck in the middle, you know. I mean, not
That's
this has happened to me, but I've seen it happen. So this is just, one little thing.
Yeah, it can happen, but it's not as common.
Yeah, no, I
It's a
agree.
lot
I agree.
easier to I'll say it's a lot easier to third wheel when you are in a relationship, but you don't have to be in a relationship to third wheel someone else's relationship, because
You've
I have
third
been.
wheeled loads of people.
Oh yeah, it turned out to be a joke where I ended up being offering a third wheel service. By the way, that still exists as a service. Because it's my nature to know how to help people, to know how to help improve people's relationships. It can be as small as suggesting a certain way to book train tickets or coach tickets in order for sods to see each other, or it could be like suggesting, oh, go to Starbucks, you might like it there, to as far as actually helping cost of people to travel, or
Hmm.
taking the couple out to eat.
Have you done this before?
Yes, I have. And I
Oh,
found
dear.
this. Sorry, but yes, I
Right.
actually have once. That's the largest extent I've third wheeled.
I assume that went well.
Yeah,
So, are there any comments in the chat or any questions you have for? Yeah.
and actually for Minnie,
Uh,
because actually I have to ask you this: how's third wheeling my relationship?
it's great. I don't know what else you want me to say. I can't really just tell you the truth straight to your face. I'm joking. I just talked to your boy and I talked to you.
Oh yeah, and you're gonna obviously show your boys this relationship podcast.
Nah, he doesn't watch them. Really
Force him to,
supportive, right?
because we are going to mention
Nah,
him constantly now.
no, you're not. I'll tell him to start watching at 50 minutes in. This is the part where we don't stop talking about you. I'm sorry.
But for the other two, what are your experiences of third wheeling, if you have had experiences of third wheeling?
Um, for me,
Yeah?
uh, I I third wheel quite a few people, and it's not as weird as I expected. Like I I feel like kind of included, kind of not. Like
Yeah, no, to be fair, I've had third wheels and I have third wheels. They're just always there with you, and it doesn't feel like they're third wheeling anything. Being like romantic or cuddly around each other, we're just like friends. So, in that sense, you kind of feel included. I don't know. Should we move on to ShadowStorm then?
probably for the
Okay,
best. It's for the best, honestly.
that's fine.
My third wheeling experience is relationship advice. Some strange reason, everyone just came to me for advice. So I found it awkward, but at the same time, I felt like I was helping.
Hmm.
We have a question in
Oh,
the
what
chat.
is the question? Read it
Uh,
out.
how do you talk
From Pip.
to an ex here? Like, uh, how do you
Yeah.
do it without any awkwardness? 100% of
Right.
the time.
It's
Um,
go on. You want
for,
you can
for
answer
me, for me personally, I don't talk to my exes.
it.
Okay,
That's fair enough.
because
That's allowed. That's a fair
like
point.
I don't be friends with my exes very much, or like I don't really talk to them very much because like we had a falling out for a reason. Okay, like or and I just or whenever I try to like talk to them, it's just that we don't talk very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's
We don't talk anymore like
Right,
we
Oz, before you
used
start
to.
singing some Charlie Puth, should I ask you about
How
your.
to talk to exes is very simple. If it depends on how your relationship ends, and sometimes it can also be how your background, your relationships, i.e., the friendships with the mutual friends, are, because sometimes if you are good mutual friends, you have good mutual friends, it can lead to awkward situations where you two have to be in the same place together and stuff like that. But all in all, it's mainly as Sel in the chat says, as well as I say in person, it's just be their friend. Just basically treat them like as if they are another sod that you are friends with. If you have a good enough rapport with that ex, then you can talk about things and hell, even third wheel their relationship. Um,
If you're willing to go that far, yes.
yes, that has happened. That I've done.
Oh, yeah.
We all know
Mm-hmm.
who. Well, Millie
Yes.
know who.
Yes, I do.
Yes, and
I know your entire life, darling.
not all of it.
Most of it.
There we go. We'll go with most and not all. Same as you.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's quite easy if your relationship ends in a agreeable manner, or in an agreeable manner, or at least somewhere where you don't bad mouth them in a way immediately post relationship. Because if you have, been in a relationship that's long enough to have mutual friends, then you will be sharing friendships. You'll be sharing what you guys are with, and the people you are with. So you have to, in a way, work with each other anyway. So it's just a lot easier to just not badmouth an ex publicly, at least immediately after whatever happens. Because it helps everything in the long term and long run. And also think about it this way: relationships come and go sometimes, but the people who stick by you are the ones that are worth it, whether it be by friendship or by relationship wise. Because if they're worth it, then you have to. Then they're if they're worth it, then they're gonna be of high value for you in the long run. And don't think about it in the short term, um, because don't think about your feelings in the short term as well. Because even if you get dumped, don't think about it like, you're still, you're gonna still have residual feelings. It's about trying to accept once you've been dumped. It's about trying to accept the reality, the new reality, and it can take some time. But once you've done that, it's a lot easier to then talk about your ex, talk to your ex, and essentially gather a friendship out of it. Because only time can only time really and distractions can heal wounds caused by emotional wounds caused by breakups, and breakups aren't that easy. Just be
No,
what.
definitely not.
Even if it's something that was inevitable, or something where it was a bad relationship that was going to an end, you don't. It's still hard. It's still hard because it's an emotional connection that you have to break for both sides.
I don't know if my connection's good enough to give my point. Can
It's
I
good
have a
enough for
yes
now.
or a no? It's good enough? Okay. I say once you've broken your relationship or they've broken it, have a 2 week period, and I mean 2 weeks, not a day or 2 days or a week, where you do not talk to them and you have zero contact with them. Because otherwise, yeah, it's going to be really awkward. I know from experience, I'm still friends with the guy I had a quasi relationship with for 6 months. Still talk to him sometimes. He's not an amazing friend. He's not my best friend. I don't talk to him about anything. Not anything, everything. And yeah, we just get by. It's not awkward anymore. We can hold nice conversations, but it took a long time to reach that point. I'd say, like, after, and it was hard for us because we were in the same group chat, and it
Sorry.
was mildly Oz's fault, but we're not gonna blame
Completely.
him here.
Actually, no, it was you that added him to the chat in the first place.
Yeah, but that was within like 2 weeks of getting with him, and then 6 months later, I didn't want to anymore. So, um, but it's fine. It's all sorted. Everything is good. It it takes time, and during that time, you just have to just quit contacting them, even if you still like them, even if you still miss them. I used Oz to fill my time. So I used to call him.
You use
Oz will
me.
roll his eyes at this. But I used
When
to
don't you?
call my um this guy before I went to bed every night. And every day I'd get to that point because I'm a very routine person. So when I got to that exact hour, I want to call him. I really miss him. I want to call him. And so I turned to Oz and go, "Can I call you?" And he was like, "Yeah." He didn't have a choice. He had to say yes. I would have been sad otherwise.
Nah, it
So
was nah. I had time, and
he
also,
was bored and needed me.
and I was getting over my own situation.
Yeah, to be fair, we were both in pretty bad situations.
We
So
both had to get over fairly similar situations, although I had some severity added on.
Avery's still laughing because he knows exactly what we're on about.
Yeah.
He was there. Uh, but yeah, so distance builds friendships. This sounds so wrong. When you're getting over a person, just put them to the don't even talk to them.
Quote of the
And
year:
then
distance builds friendship.
and then get back into talking to them when you don't feel as awkward. That's my advice. Take things slow. Patience pays off.
In terms of relationships, we've covered well, you know, how varied we have experienced in meeting our current partners. So relationships, as far as we know, can come from so many different sources at so many different times and so many different places, and sometimes they just sneak up on you. Yeah. Once you get into one, the key point is, as stated, overall we have all the communication, communication, communication.
And
Uh,
lastly, communication.
Communication.
oh yeah.
Yeah. We
Uh,
can't forget that.
Yeah, no,
yes.
that's the most important one.
We're not going to cover the.
Can I
Go on.
change the mildly? It's not actually important to be in a relationship.
Yes, actually, that was
It's
I
You're
was
not.
going.
allowed
I was
to
going to
be
lead to this.
single.
I was
Oh,
going to
well,
lead to this.
sorry, I beat you to it.
Yeah, but you're supposed to do a smooth transition to
It
it.
was a great
Yeah,
transition.
smooth transition.
No, yours was
Okay.
rough because you like it rough. Anyway,
This is the wrong podcast to spawn.
anyway, considering that Minnie likes it rough,
Oh my
transition
gosh, I need to
wise,
leave.
we will be talking, and obviously I was going to go about third wheels, how it looks, how to help sods outside of a relationship, um, in a relationship. But now I want to talk about how, and obviously how we dealt with in between the single life. But with the single life, it is, as Minnie has stated, prematurely because she likes things premature,
Stop. Stop.
especially the boyfriend. But
Oh God, I hate
there,
you.
you love me really.
Yeah, I do.
With
Oh my gosh.
premature situations, as we were stated, yes, it is not important to have a relationship. Let's put it this way: do not get into a relationship because of the sake of a relationship. Do not do that because it never ends well.
True.
And it always leads to you finding the next relationship, and it can lead into a circle of relationships, an endless cycle, life cycle in a way of. You could even turn it into one of those periodic
A love
calendar
triangle.
things.
Yes.
Like
Love triangle.
you could
Sorry.
schedule relationship. It gets to the point where some people even end up by accident having relationship schedules.
By
What?
accident?
Like
Wait.
they get into a relationship, and then like 3 months in, it turns out it's not great. They break up. The guy then becomes, the sod becomes desperate and then finds another sod, and then it's
3 months
3 months
is quite a
later,
long
and
time.
then
It's
you
normally
get what
about
I
2
mean though.
weeks.
It can happen. Sometimes it can change the depth, but my
Yes.
advice is, if you want a proper relationship, don't. And if you, when I'm saying relationship, don't go and rush into one without knowing that. Remember, relationships are hard work, very
Yeah,
hard
that's
work.
true.
They are very
High
hard work.
maintenance. Yeah.
Yep.
And if you don't acknowledge the fact that relationships are hard work, then you're not ready for one. It's very simple. Um,
Especially long distance relationships.
oh yeah, you have to
Yeah.
have an excruciating amount of patience to be in a long distance
Patience
relationship.
and a lot of communication.
Oh yeah.
We all chant communication. I haven't spoken to my boyfriend in 3 days.
I
Yeah,
mean,
God.
you're gonna have to also
Oh,
remember that when you're in a
yikes.
relationship, communication can sometimes be. Yeah, there are sometimes times where you don't communicate, but you have to acknowledge that that these things can happen, and don't be too pushy about it, because then it can annoy the other side.
Yeah, I've come to a point where like we're chill not talking to each other. Like I know it's weird and I do miss him and all that stuff, but like get all hysterical about him not texting me every 3 seconds. I mean, I have a bestie who is dating someone who's very controlling, and if she doesn't reply to him within 3 minutes, he has like a massive go at her. This is an unhealthy relationship. I don't have a choice. I have to put up with it, so I might as well share everything.
You put up with it, and I feel sorry for you because I know how you
You
feel.
know, I've told you.
Yes, and I've seen stuff about that.
Yeah, so just reach a point where you know that you're trustworthy, that they're trustworthy, that you know if you don't talk to them for 3 days, they're not going to go off and do fun things with 8 other people.
And
Sorry.
vigorously touch them.
Bear in mind, I did say do fun.
Nice recovery.
Do you remember
Smooth recovery there.
Minnie's quick recovery away from banning us? Well done.
My connection was probably bad, so
I'm actually glad your connection was bad today. I mean, for you guys, any advice for this single sod?
fun with your single life. And kiss as many people as you want, because guess what? You don't have to become sentimentally attached with them.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is really bad advice.
This is clearly out of the mini book of friendship benefits.
Sorry.
Friends with benefits is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It isn't a bad thing because one, it can lead to relationship if you need it to be. But
Yeah.
two, most importantly, it's a way, it's an outlet of being able to express your emotions, like either your physical emotions, your possibly romantic emotions, even,
Even further than that, sometimes.
or
Cool.
your mini special words.
I need to stop.
Or many special
I've got
words,
such a bad reputation now.
sort of things. I it works out for people, and it can benefit how you treat other people in relationships because it's a way to express and experience certain relationship situations without the thing of going into one. I'm not saying I don't fully advocate them, but they can be beneficial. On the other hand, it can be detrimental if you end up developing feelings, and then there's like, there's the detrimental, oh, this sod has feelings but the other sod doesn't, and these things can happen. So you have to remember, you have to acknowledge the risk that you take for that.
Yeah.
And remember, relationships, as we stated, are hard work. So don't go into one unless you know that you are sacrificing a lot of things with going into a relationship. You are sacrificing yourself for someone else to an extreme measure, yes. And
You're putting yourself into someone else's hand
or
and vice
heart,
versa.
someone else's heart,
Okay.
because you have to make
Now
it
you.
romantic.
Yeah, but now that could be taken in so many different ways. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're the only one that's making it sound like it could be taken in many different ways.
We need to. Any questions from the floor, please get
Oh,
me
I do
off
have a
this
question from the
topic.
ceiling though, with
That's not even funny.
I know. Breaking periods. Um,
Periods.
asking Minnie saying, okay, Sal said, quote unquote, question, breaking periods, brackets, told Minnie earlier, close bracket.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up, but I missed my chance. I'm very sorry, Selica. Would you like me to explain?
Go ahead, do it now.
Okay, cool. Sorry. So, Selica was telling me earlier that you can have periods where you break up and then get back together.
Yeah.
So
It's called a
you're all
break.
together. Yeah, but I think they dated someone in the meantime, and they were like, "Nah, I actually want to go back to you. You were cool." I actually don't
I've
know the full story. I assume I'm making it up, but
You don't need to
you know,
state
it
the
could
full
be.
story.
I don't actually know the full story.
personally, I have experienced this,
Ah, there we
and
go.
from my experience, it did not end well.
Oh,
So it kind of ends up we got back together, but yet they ended up cheating on me with the person I dated while we were on a break. So
ah.
yeah, that's my experience.
Well, that's the not so nice. But it happens. Just to show you, it happens.
And remember, there are risks in taking whatever you take. Any sort of decision you take has a risk, and you
Yeah,
have to acknowledge and know that you will be taking a risk when you do that. But if you remember this, when you are single, you can go with whomever you want and do wherever you want without having to be tied with loyalty to a person, with with restrictions, if you think they are restrictions. But
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you don't have the constant "you are loved by this sod," but you do have you don't have the uh you can do a lot of things that are simultaneous. Yeah. Not that that's at the same time. No. Spontaneous. There you go. That's the word. Simultaneous is you can do
Something else.
you can do something spontaneous. You can do something spontaneous. You can do um you can do whatever you want. And remember, once you're taken, you're taken. Um, there's no going. Once I said there's no going back. And once you do take the risk of going into a relationship, your relationship with the sod, because you've now opened your emotional gates to them, means that that relationship has changed permanently. And whenever two friends get into a relationship and then they break off, sometimes it breaks the friendship because you've seen each other in a new light, as you've seen each other not just in daylight but also in nightlight. Um,
Okay, that's what happened.
I'm talking about more extensive conversations rather than just like seeing each other and socializing. You'll be seeing each other and
Hmm.
going to dinner and seeing each other and
Yeah. Spending more
having
time with each other. Being
having romantic
romantic.
times.
Although there are open and closed relationships, so that, can change things.
Yeah,
If you're in an open relationship, then I don't know much about
it's
this. I don't know if
basically
any of
allowed,
you.
quote unquote, allowed cheating. Um, I'm going to put it honestly. For some, it would be classed as quote unquote allowed cheating, but basically, it allows someone to
Cheating with consent.
yes,
That's, yeah.
it allows someone
That's
to explore certain aspects of a relationship of a relationship with others if, for example, their current relationship doesn't cannot provide what the other side wants. These arrangements can happen, but my advice is this: if you are going to enter into those sorts of arrangements, remember you've got two main risks that come out of it. One, if you enter into a open relationship, you run the risk of the person possibly gaining feelings for someone else, especially if they are open in certain ways to someone else very specifically. Secondly, it's it's also you're going to have a lot of conversation about it. You have to do a lot of communication, and in order to ensure that no boundaries are passed, and stuff like that, because it is it's truthfully a very it's it can be rewarding for some. It depends on how you feel like and what you want to do with it. But you have to remember that if you communicate well, then it doesn't. Then you can do whatever you want if you two both agree on it.
Yeah. And you both have to agree.
Yes.
You
And
cannot force the other person. If they say no once, that no is carried right to the end.
yeah, especially with whatever happens behind closed doors, behind closed
And you can
books.
say no at whatever time you want. You can start halfway through, go no. That's okay, and they have to respect that you've said no.
Yes, and a true person who respects you will respect that decision, and a person who respects you is a person that's worth it,
Yeah.
and a person who, and it can last a long, and with all of this, with all the advice we have said, you know, you can last pretty long and last as long as our secondary sponsor. Our secondary sponsor is the WLTM Transport blog, blogging about London's transports for right now about 7 years. Visit them at their website www.wltmtb.co.uk. And that sponsorship is me. So
Yes.
so
We love you, Oz. Donate
so
£10
Yes,
from your
have
left
my
hand to your
baby.
right hand.
Sorry.
you
Sorry.
wish. So today's as in the previous podcast, I've said I will be taking, for example, in the first podcast it was $10 from my left hand to my right hand.
Second
Second podcast it was a
Ooh.
£50 note from my right hand to my
Yeah.
left hand. Today's
Ooh.
podcast, the
It's nothing. You
payment.
spent it all with your boyfriend.
No, actually, today's podcast is sponsored by the two earlier, but it will be taking tickets to rail tickets to Doncaster from my left hand to my right hand later on this week.
Is it like a magic trick?
Lovely. Yeah, they just
Oh, yeah.
appeared.
They
No,
just
I've already
appear
booked.
to
I've
the other
actually
hand.
booked them, so I am actually going there. So
I hope you have a good time. Get lots of videos so we can all watch them on the like they stated.
Or pictures, because I like
Second.
pictures too.
Yeah, we like pictures too. Make lots of
Yeah,
blog posts.
because
We
I
love
don't have to
reading
like
those.
watch it very
and
much.
now we go back to the podcast
Oh yeah.
after the
Oh
plug
yeah.
in by our
That's a
sponsor.
thing.
I was thinking we could take questions.
Reading through the chat, you see Sal saying, "Open relationships, quote unquote, where partner A trusts partners B enough to satisfy his or her own needs and trusting them to still love you. Open poly relationship is where you're open to experiment together with your partner to find another person to love together. And sometimes you can
Yeah.
and sometimes people can be in a polyamorous relationship where you have 3 people, 4 people,
4 people.
5 people,
5 people.
6
etc.
people.
No, we
7
don't
people.
go to 6.
8 people.
One for
9
every day of the
people.
week.
A
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
town. No, that's too far. But in all
Yeah, I hope
honesty,
not.
it is whatever you do, if you can communicate your ideas and how you are to uh each other, then yeah, it is it is very simple. Now, I mean, I didn't want to go into this straight away, but uh I I got a question, not from I was sent a question just now. Although part of it was already answered earlier. Um,
Yes.
it's just a simple one about getting over a breakup. When it happens, how sudden is the realization that you're no longer bothered about the breakup or your feelings with someone else? Because for some, it can be, fairly quick. If it's a particularly bad relationship or if the affinity has lost, then it can be quick. But for some, it can take years.
Oh yeah, it's not a quick thing getting over
Oh, I
a
hope
relationship. It's a big
I
involved.
hope nobody has like a year worth of widow. Like
It
like
happens.
I I mean that's
Avery,
I know it
I know it
happens,
happens. I am one of my friends is actually experiencing this.
Oh no, I
which
feel bad for them. Okay.
that's very unfortunate, and I wish them the best of luck on getting
Oh, my
through it,
nose.
And
getting through it.
and actually, ShadowStorm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, a question from the floor. When it happens, when a breakup happens, how sudden is the realization that you're no longer bothered about it?
Personally, for me, it takes me a couple of weeks. It's usually for the emotional realization, and then I kind of cover it up by eating loads of ice cream and chocolate and watching really sad romantic movies.
I scream. Sorry, I
Ben and
got really
Jerry's.
happy. Yes, literally Ben& Jerry's cookie dough. My life, please.
Oh, love
This is girl talk, guys. Sorry if you don't relate.
it.
Sorry, but
Oh,
yeah, us
ice
Sorry,
wouldn't
cream is a
understand.
Avery, I forgot you're
ice
a girl.
cream and
Us girls know this.
actually, yeah, because I'm the most masculine in
Oh, I'm
in
sorry,
this
you're a
podcast. I
man.
just realised that. What guys do is it depends. Some people do people, um, and for others it is a sense of realizing that when you when you um when you break up with someone, it depends on how extensive your relationship is. But the realization can come at any point. Can either come at whenever you see them. Sometimes you can have a jealousy of when they find someone else, but when you sometimes you know that the other sod is in a relationship that isn't as rewarding, and you realize vindication. You've been vindicated, or they've done something that you know you can have, like for example, quote unquote, dodged a bullet in a situation like that. Um, but sometimes it can be just you speaking to your friends, speaking to people that you know, or even just finding someone that really likes you and cares about you. Um, for me, I had a really weird one. Because I had surgery. In I had surgery in December.
Yes.
Ironically, on Avery's
Hey, me
birthday.
too.
I had surgery on Avery's birthday last year, and
Yeet.
which is in December. And when that happened, I was stuck at home to recuperate and recover. Still under recovery in a way, but with that, I managed to find myself, and in a way,
Yeah.
the I found out what I found out, the realization that I didn't necessarily need a relationship, or I didn't necessarily care. Not necessarily, when I say care about them, but more like care about I the relationship. I didn't really care about, the breakup. Uh, it took a few months, but at about January, so about 2 months, honestly,
Mhm.
like 1 to 2 months on this after that, after my breakup, it was at that moment where I just felt, you know what, it was a sudden realization, but it was like, you know what, I'm me. I have to focus on myself, and
Yeah.
because I had my time
Yeah, heck
away
yeah.
from everyone else, that was the moment when I managed to think more about myself than at any other point. Um,
I mean, it
circum
also let you figure out really close friends and people who you actually wanted to stick by you
yeah.
and stuff. People who'd help you through the hard. Those are the good people.
Oh yeah,
They're
definitely.
the ones who are gonna love you for a long, basically.
Love you long time.
Yeah.
And talking about love you long time, um,
I love you all. Long time.
I love
way.
you too.
For the two people who have been in longer term relationships, because me and Minnie aren't in haven't lasted a year yet in relationships, but for you
I
two,
haven't even lasted. We haven't even
we've not even lasted.
either of us.
We've not even lasted over 6 months in our current relationships. But for the
Yeah.
two people for our two guests, Avery and ShadowStorm, what? How do you keep the keep the Kindle in your relationship, considering that you
In
are now,
your
you've gone
fire.
way past the new lover stage. How do you guys kindle the relationship?
The only thing is,
Oh,
we
here we
don't
go.
do anything. Okay. Okay. So we literally just talk about our day, like how are we doing, and then like occasionally like, hey, I love you, and then that's it.
Oh.
And then I mean, like we don't really do anything major, like anything majorly romantic or like anything. We just talk about random crap, like, and he's one of my best friends instead of like an actually like boyfriend. Sorry, I had to think of the word.
You forgot the word boyfriend.
Yeah, I
Wow.
never
Yeah, he
use that.
kind of
So
forgot
Wow. I'm gonna
what
tell your
we're
boy.
doing.
it's fine.
Wow. Okay, and Shadowstorm, how do you considering you guys are basically engaged, well, basically engaged, you are engaged, um,
Basically,
with rings and all that sort of stuff.
all that
How do you
jazz.
guys keep the excitement in your relationship?
I think it's just we sit down, we have these long conversations, remind each other how much we love each other and how other, and then we're also going back to like places like where we got engaged on top of the hill. We got up there a while, and there's other things, but it's not PG enough to share on the stream.
It's
Sorry
although
about that.
very
Ooh.
good to share post stream. Oh yeah, we do the after show. But the after show is for no one here in listening. Because of course, all our guests are so far are friends, but uh, as an advertisement from but yes, from next week onwards, we are going to do some revisions. One, we will actually be streaming and providing the podcast to you on YouTube. One, fairly immediately, but two, most importantly, they will be released in public as opposed to unlisted as they are right now. And secondly,
Ew.
we will be opening up the floor. We will be opening up our guests during the week, um, and they are available. If you want to be part of the podcast,
Yeah.
we will be stating during the week, during this week or early on Monday, um, what topic we'll be talking about, and people can join. People can join our podcasts. The calls are normally held on Discord, by the way. But if you want to be part of the podcast, we are happy to. If you and want to talk about a certain topic that we are going to talk about, then sure, we are very welcome to having guests around.
Yes, join us, please.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't think I mean I think we are getting close to the natural end of our podcast, as I was saying.
Woo! We should
Mm.
have like an ending song that we sing together.
But
It like we'll butcher it, but like we have a song.
I know, I know, I know. But yeah. Um, any last I'm gonna start with ShadowStorm. Any last things you want to say about relationships before we wrap up? Any thoughts or anything you didn't get to say that you want to say and or advise people about?
I think I just want to say, just be happy with who you are, and if you're in a relationship, just be happy with how far you come. Doesn't matter if it's 1 week, it's 3 years, as long as you have anyone else judge you.
For those who didn't hear through the cutting, yeah, don't let anyone judge you for you know
yeah.
only you can judge you, and you're on the sod,
And
but and then we'll
yeah,
go
I
with
can judge
Avery.
me, and then yeah,
I can judge
and
you
my
too,
boyfriend can judge
Cinnamons.
me. Like, yeah, you all can just judge me. Like, I'm fine with that.
Avery, yeah,
But don't let
anything
anybody
you
else
want
judge
to
you.
say, anything you want to say about.
Any last words?
Any last words?
Yeah.
Mm, um, relationships are good, but you don't have to be in a relationship to be good. You know.
You sound like you could do a voiceover for Rick and Morty.
Thank you. I'm
No
actually going
worries.
to audition, so
Oh, good.
Well done.
Season 4, go for it.
And Minnie,
thank you.
any last words you want to say about any last recommendations?
Just focus on yourself. Make yourself happy before making someone else happy. Be selfish. It's okay to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not too
Any last
selfish.
words?
And my last words are my summing
Yeah.
up words are ensure that you communicate with your sod. Make sure
Communication.
make sure that you are happy with yourself before you enter a relationship. Know that a relationship is very hard work before you even set off into one. Make sure that you are comfortable with yourself in it and before it, because you aren't, then you're not gonna. It's not gonna work. And
Make
most.
sure that your partner is comfortable too.
Oh
Like,
yeah, make sure your partner is
Yeah.
comfortable. That's especially. That's a given, but also especially that's the point.
Two-way process.
And yes, relationships are a two-way process, or if you're in a polyamorous relationship, a 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever way process. It depends on what you're into.
Billion-way process.
That's a country, but
Okay, so we should wrap it up there. Thank
and
you so much to our
final.
guests.
Yes, thank you so much to our guests. And the final words.
Thank you, ShadowStorm. Thank you for having you.
Thank you for
I
having
know
me
Oz
on.
wants
you
to
know,
talk about
thank you for having us.
the
Like,
sponsor.
we just love hanging out with you.
It's okay. We love hanging out with you too.
Yay!
Yay.
I'm
You.
sure we'll see more of
That means a lot.
on the podcast in the ones to come. Thank you, Oz, for hosting.
And
Thank you, Minnie, for co-hosting it.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, oh
thank
yeah.
you.
And
Just
also, obviously, just before we go, a final word from our sponsors. The main sponsor being glorious water
Glorious one.
transport videos for videos of bus ride experiences, especially of rare or previous buses, or just exciting or new things, or just travelling around the home
Citing
counties most of the time. Search for glorious water on YouTube. Um, and there are some videos where you find an orange bag in them. That's my bag.
Ooh.
So
Good spot, Oz.
Ooh.
you can do that
Ooh.
if you want. The link will be in the description when I upload this onto YouTube for the channel. And our second and final words are from our secondary sponsor, the WLTM Transport blog, covering London's transport for 7 years, including, well, basically all, including all of the time that I've ever been taken. That's how long ago that I've run this transport blog. But yes, it is. You can visit them at www.wltmtb.co.uk, and we've
Unless,
already
in case you wanted to know what transport was
and
like 7 years ago.
yes, and how poor my blogging skills were 7 years ago.
Yes.
And
So I think we'll end this here. Thank you so much for
yes,
listening.
and
Yes.
I bid you a. I have to bid you guys a
Farewell.
good night.
Bye. I love you.